Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're just getting ready together and I am going to be using the new Gingerbread Extra Spicy palette. So I'm kind of do what I did with the Urban Decay Naked Honey and just kind of do a combination review and get ready with me. So I will show you some swatches, talk about the packaging, and also show you a comparison at the end of this video to the original Gingerbread palette. So let's get started. I just have moisturizer and skincare on. I'm going to start with my eye primer. This is the Smashbox 24-hour eyeshadow primer. This is a brand new tube. I have been trying to use up some of my other stuff and I have just really been missing this primer. So this is the one I'm going to use today. For foundation, because my skin has just been kind of extra dehydrated lately with the changing of the weather and all of that, I'm going to use my IT Causemetics Confidence in a Compact foundation. And I'm seeing this disappear from the Ulta website, but it is still available on itcosmetics.com. I'm using the shade Light. This is a new one because I used up my other one in this shade. So it's always a good testament to how much you like a product if you repurchase it. And I have this in my summer and winter shade now again. So I'm using my Morphe M439 to blend this into my skin. And I did add a little bit of moisturizer, just some of my argan oil to my face first. But you can go straight in with this as kind of an all-in-one moisturizer, and it has SPF 50. So this is my sunscreen for today. And with this foundation, I do like to take a little extra time after I've gotten the product kind of distributed on the face and just press it into the skin and into the areas where I have texture lines. And then I do like to let this sit on the skin for a while before I powder. So we're gonna go back to the eyes and now go into this palette. So if you've not seen this, this is what this palette looks like. Now, at first glance, I thought this was going to come across maybe a little more pink on the eyes, but even these pink tones have quite a bit of warmth to them. And I will put up on the screen here the swatches of all of these shades. There is one shade right here, which is kind of like that weird pop of turquoise, but it's really super dark. And as you can see in the swatch, it really doesn't come across very blue at all. But I've really been enjoying playing with this. And today I decided I'm going to do, I think, mostly a matte look with this and do kind of a very sunset matte look. I have my sweater on today, so just feeling very fall inspired. So I'm going to go in with the E50 from Sigma. And we're going to start off with this cream shade. Now I do feel like these shadows are a little more powdery than what I recall from most of their shadows in their other tin-like palettes. So I'm just putting a little bit of that, actually quite a lot of that along the brow bone to the top of the crease there. So that first shade I used is called Vanilla Wafers, and now I'm going to go in with the shade. It looks pretty pink in the pan there, but I'm going to show you this on the eyes. So I'm going to use the Morphe M504. It's called Soft and Sweet, and I'm just putting that really lightly through the crease and blending it into that brow bone highlight color. So you can see there's a hint of pink coming through, but it is a pretty warm pink. This is the Morphe M433, and now I'm going to take a little bit of Extra Spicy, super bright orange shade here, and I'm going to take this into the crease, and I'm going to take this almost all the way over, not quite. I'm going to stop about 2/3 of the way across, just blend that into that crease color, and then down here into the outer corner. And then I'm gonna go in with this shade called Cinnamon. This is probably one of my favorite colors in the whole palette. I'm just gonna keep using that same brush, and I'm gonna go now all the way to the lash line with that color, and then just touch it slightly into the crease there in the outer corner. And then I am going to bring this shade across the lid slightly. And then I'm going to go back to Extra Spicy. Here we are. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the M504 and we're going to go into the shade Butterscotch right here. And I'm just really lightly tapping into that shade. And now I'm going to go right between the brow bone highlight color and that first shade that we put through the crease. And I'm just ever so lightly going to put this on the outer part here so you can see just a hint of that yellow. And then I'm going to bring that yellow shade in here in the inner corner as well. And then I'll go back with the brow bone highlight shade Vanilla Wafers and our E50 and just go around the edge. So this is kind of like our eraser color. So if you feel like you've got too much yellow, you can just go right around the edge and kind of take back some of that yellow. Now I'm going to go in with this flat shader brush. This is the MAC 239. I've been testing this brush out. I'm going to go in with this deepest, darkest brown shade here. It's called Cookie Call. And I'm going to just kind of tap the tip of that brush in. And now I'm going to just push that color right into the outer corner of the lashes. And then I'm going to start bringing the color up just slightly here in the outer corner. And then just sweep the brush towards the center of the lid to blend that. So putting the most pigment right at the lash line and then blend up slightly. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that towards the inner corner and then go back with my M433 and I'm going to blend just kind of the upper part of that. I'm not going to take my brush all the way down into the dark brown, but just above it, blend slightly. And then I'm going to go back in now to the shade it's Cinnamon, not Cinnamon, Cinnamon. Okay, we're going to go right there in the corner. There's just a really nice gradation of color. And then I'm going to go in with our lightest shade, and this is just a flat shader brush. This is the E60 from Sigma. And I'm going to use this to brighten the inner corner. And then go back with no extra product on that brush and just lightly sweep over that. And then just to do a final little bit of blending between that inner corner highlight and our lid shade, I'm going to go in with this shade right here, which is Plenty of Dough. I'm going to just use the other side of that E60 brush and just tap a little bit here. So it still keeps this inner part light, but there's a little bit of a gradation of color there between those darker shadows there. And then if you feel like you need to just blend a little bit together, just take the side of your M433, blend that. On the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with Torch by Urban Decay and just use this to lay down kind of a little bit of a base. So obviously it's quite orange, but I'm just going to use my finger to diffuse that. And I want this to be kind of a real soft, smoky effect down here on the lower lash line. And then I'm going to go right close to the lashes with my M432 brush from Morphe and a little bit of this dark shade called Cookie Call. I'm just going to use this right here in the outermost part of the lashes and connect it right to the corner. And then I'm going to clean off that brush and now go in with Cinnamon right here. And that just cracks me up. And I'm going to use this along the lash line as I go in towards the center of the eye. And then lastly, I'm going to take just a little combination of Butterscotch and our Brow Bone Highlight color on, this is the Sigma E47. Take a combination of those two. So I just kind of dip my brush back and forth a couple times, tap off the excess, and then I'm just going to go now below kind of the orange part of that lower lash line. And I know we haven't done concealer yet, but I always like to do this first because I feel like there's drop down and it will get into the concealer and make it look muddy down there if I do it after concealer. So I'm just going to take this along kind of the outer edge of that lower lash line. And so there's just a subtle hint of that yellow and orange kind of sunset look down there. Now it's time to clean up under the eye. I'm just using my almond oil. Okay, now we need some concealer to bring this all together. So I am using a new one, testing out a new one. This is the Bye Bye Under Eye Corrector from IT Cosmetics. They have like 4 different concealers or 3 different concealers and several that are similar. So I'm trying to figure out what the difference is between the two. I have it in the shade medium and you can see it's pretty peachy, but somehow this has been working all on its own. And you can see the darkness there, and I'm just going in, and this is a super thin, super hydrating formula, which is what I am needing at the current moment. And so I am just really just tapping that in and applying as little as possible for the first layer. And then I'll tap just a tiny little bit extra right here and right where I have some veins that show through. And you can see kind of before, after. And even though it looks pretty dark, it just has canceled out the darkness, and I have not actually been going over the top of it with concealer. You could. Then I'm just going to go back in with my foundation brush and just tap that in to the skin and just kind of tap over my forehead lines before I powder. I'm going to add a little extra highlight today with the L'Oreal Visible Lift Luminous Serum Tint, and this is the shade 802 Rose. This is my super pale winter skin shade. I'm just going to tap a little bit here on tops of my cheeks here. For powder, I'm using the Too Faced Peach Perfect Mattifying Loose Setting Powder. And this is the translucent shade. And I'm going to use my Sigma powder brush, my favorite, the F30. And what I like to do with a more dewy foundation is just tap the powder in first. And then I will go back at the end and buff it in. So that helps you not lift off the foundation. So tap it in, and then very lightly, with very light pressure, just kind of buff over it. And then to set the under eye, I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish, and I have it in the shade number 2. And I'm just going to use my Real Techniques setting brush for this today. And just really lightly, you want to make sure you tap out any lines first, or any creases I should say, and then very lightly adding some powder there. Now it's time to add some color and shape to the face. So I'm going to go in with the Tarte Park Ave Princess palette, and I'm going to start off with this shade, which is Princess Cut, and I'm going to use the F05 from Sigma, and just use a little bit of this to carve out my cheeks. And then take a little bit of this shade also down the jawbone and underneath right here. And then I'll also take this along the edge of my hairline. Love this shade. It's cooler toned, but it's not too gray. So I think it is a very nice, subtle contour color. Then I'll use that same shade on my LORAC contour brush and do just a little nose contour. And I'm going to go in with the Sedona Lace 919 brush and the shade right next to it, right here, which has a little bit of shimmer. It's called Carat. And use this more where you would naturally bronze, so kind of more the tops of the cheekbones. I just feel like with a sunset eye, it helps to bring a little more color into the face. Since I am much more pale right now, I feel like I just need that little extra bit of some bronzer. I'm going to go in with the Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush in the shade Seduce on the E4 from Morphe. And this is just a nice neutral with a hint of some warmth blush. For highlighter, I pulled out one of my winter shade highlighters. This is by LORAC. This is the Illuminating highlighter in Starlight. It's such a pretty, super smooth formula. It has a nice brightness to it, but it's not glittery on the skin. So I'm going to go in with the MAC fan brush. This is the 140, and use just a touch of that on the cheeks, and then blend in with my fingers, because this is a pretty intense highlighter, but again, it's not glittery, but you can just see, whoa, how much light that picks up. And then I'm going to take just a tiny little bit of this on my pinky and tap this right here on the inner corner. I don't want it to be super intense, but I want a little bit of extra brightness. Because we have those orangey tones on the eyes, you need to really kind of work a little harder to make sure the rest of your eye looks a little brighter and awake. So bringing more light into that inner corner is going to help you not look tired while wearing these colors. Let's get some brows on. I'm going to use the IT Cosmetics Brow Power Full. Just working through this, I actually prefer their regular universal one or the NYX Precision Brow Pencil, but this one's good too. It's just a little bit thicker of an end, a tip, so you can't, it's harder to be more precise, but the good part of that is it lays down quite a lot of product pretty quickly. So if you just want something to brush through your brows real quick and you don't want a lot of precision, this is a good one to do that. Okay, then I'm just gonna brush through the front of the brows here. Sometimes I can just keep messing with the brows and keep messing with them, and you just at a certain point have to just stop, right? All right, so brows are on. Now let's do some mascara. I'm gonna curl my lashes. My Tweezerman eyelash curler for round eyes. And I just give them a good curl. Sometimes I go in twice. For the upper lashes, I'm going to use the Origins Underwear for Lashes. This is great for conditioning, adds extra length, body, all that good stuff, which you don't necessarily need with the IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara, but I do love the combination of the two. And then on my lower lashes, I'm going to use the Thrive Causemetics Liquid Lash Extensions. Okay, so it fixed my hair. That always makes everything look like we're almost ready, right? I did go back and add just a little bit of the Urban Decay 24/7 Pencil and Demolition. Just added a little bit on the inner rim of my upper lash line. Sometimes I'll do that after I've added mascara if I feel like I want a little bit of depth at the lash line, but I don't want to cover up all of the pretty eyeshadow that we have going on the lid. So now I'm going to just finish off with the lips. I'm using the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and just going around the edge of the lips. For lip liner, I'm going to use my NYX Nutmeg lip liner. I'm going to try to do this off to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. So you can see I made a pretty thick line because I don't want there to be a big difference between the lip line and my lip color. Now the lip color I chose is actually a frost formula. It's not super frosty, but it's from MAC. It's called O, and this has quickly become one of my favorites for fall. It looks pretty bronze in the tube, but when you put it on your lips, you'll see there is a hint of kind of a raisin depth in the back of it. So a little bit of a raisin tint there. And paired with the brown lip liner, it's not quite as red, but if you pair it with something like MAC's Half Red, then it definitely goes more in the plum tones. So I'm going to swipe on that lipstick. And it's a pretty deep shade, but because it's a frost formula, it doesn't seem to be too vampy or too dramatic. I think it would work for a lot of different skin tones, and even on my super pale skin, I don't think it's too dramatic. All right, so here is our finished look. And this is the first time I've really done kind of just an all matte sunset eye with this palette. But overall, I have actually found that the mattes in this palette are my favorite parts of the palette. Now there are 10 mattes in here and 8 shimmers. There are a couple of shimmer shades, this one right here and this one that I feel are really good and soft. But then there's a couple like these 3 right here that just feel a little bit grittier to the touch. And then this one, that kind of turquoisey teal shade, not my favorite because it does just kind of come off as kind of a dark, muddy color. Now, if you're wondering how does it compare to the original, let me put them up side by side here. I can do this. So on the bottom is last year's Gingerbread palette, and on the top is this year's. So you can see on the bottom, there just are like the brown tones in the last year's palette seem to be a little touch cooler, and there are plum tones in this palette, as well as that olive green and just a few lighter shimmer shades in there, versus this year's is pretty warm and, as the title infers, extra spicy. So if you are somebody who doesn't love super spicy warm shades, you're not gonna like this one. But if you do, like myself, I think you will enjoy this palette. Now, there are a lot of warm tone palettes out there, so I think the other factors you want to take into consideration are, do you like shadows that smell like dessert? If you do, this is something that sets this palette apart from other palettes out there. The packaging also is just super cutesy. It's very similar to last year's outside packaging. So if you're looking for something that is a great gift, very Christmas holiday themed, this would be a great palette. So those kinds of things, I think, set it aside from other warm tone palettes out there. However, like I said, a couple of the shimmer shades right here were a little disappointing to me, but they still work. They still function well. But again, you're going to get very, very warm tone eye looks from this palette. So if that's what you're looking for, you won't be disappointed with this palette. So that wraps up this video, guys. I hope that that was helpful for you and fun. Whether you're interested in this palette or you were just looking for some fall inspiration, a fall eye look to pull together, hopefully you will have fun recreating this look. Thank you as always so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I have several other holiday kits and holiday palette reviews coming, so be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on those, and I'll see you next time. Bye.